Good morning, everyone, and very much welcome to another Flash Friday. I'm very much looking forward to having this talk together with you and, of course, my fabulous co-host today, Richard Neve in Dutch, for the ones who know him personally, from Cognito Media. He's the managing director in the Amsterdam office, and he's very well fed into everything that has to do with fintech, marketing, how to go to market, all these strategies. So if you're trying to get a bit smarter on how you actually scale your startup, scale your fintech across boundaries into new markets and tell the story to everyone you want to work with, you need to talk to Richard. Right?
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Don. Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. But thanks for the praise. Yeah, it's amazing to have the opportunity to indeed have a chat with you on Flash Friday. Looking forward, and of course the reason we got to talk today is about our report, the new report that came out, a survey we did amongst marketing professionals in about 50 technology firms across the globe.
Yeah.
And about what they see as their priorities in spending and focus when it comes to indeed enhance their marketing for their firm. So I've got the report. People like it can download it on our website, or you can even get a physical copy. But the report is.
I think it's really nice. I think maybe just before we dive into the report, I'd just like to understand a little bit sort of what is Cognito Media, right? So I think if you Google Cognito, you end up a lot of biological Wikipedia sites before you actually end up on your site. So can you give people a bit of background on what all kind of services or things that your firm does?
More than happy. Cognito is a global firm. There are about 90 cognitions in 7 offices. We offer marketing, branding, PR, communication services, but only to companies in financial services. So all our clients are in the world of lending, payments, pensions, wealth, banking, insurance. And for these companies, we offer bespoke communication solutions. Like I said, with about 90 people, 12 of them in Amsterdam, and we've got offices in the US, in APAC, and a few in Europe.
Cool. So I think why that dedicated focus on the industry? Do you see that it's a very specific domain if you want to think about how to communicate what's going on? Do you need the domain expertise as well?
Yeah, absolutely. That's for us the reason why we focus on financial services only. And you can't have in-depth support, in-depth knowledge, you can't offer in-depth consultancy if you're doing batteries on Monday and you're doing a car brand on Thursday, and on Wednesday you need to come up with some stuff for a savings account. We truly believe that you need to understand the business model, the distribution model, where is value added, where are costs generated. So you actually need to have a in-depth knowledge of the business, and we then have we think we have understanding of financial services. And then on top, when you're part of the ecosystem, the people know you, you know the people. Yep. So you can bring people together. When we organize an event, it's easy to get a professor there to speak, or to have an asset manager give one of the portfolio managers to do a keynote, because because you're part of the ecosystem, part of the fabric of the industry. So we truly believe
become ingrained, basically, right?
Yeah, and we can actually add value to our clients because we're not doing batteries, we don't do hotel change, we only do financial services. And obviously these days, financial services means technology. It's a digital age.
Yeah, no, I fully understand. I think you work indeed with basically more traditional financial services firms as well as upcoming firms. Is there a big difference in the work that you do there and the way that you approach it?
No, not the way we do it. We do provide our services and how we approach it, but there's a big difference in how these two categories approach, let's say, the world. The traditional firms are defending where they are and struggling to find a new identity and struggling to find a new, I would say, engagement dialogue with their audiences, where the new industries, the new companies are simply market share, more investment, growth. They're way more aggressive. And that means that they sometimes neglect important things or think too lightly about certain elements of their growth journey.
Yep.
We'll fix that later. We'll fix that when we do Series C.
Yeah.
But they should have fixed it now. And the traditional firms tend to be more, I would say, cautious, risk averse, where they should pace up, speed up, because they're actually don't understand the urgency of the situation. I personally think that a lot of traditional financial service providers maybe a little bit shell-shocked, but they need to understand if they don't pace up swiftly and make some firm decisions, they'll lose out.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think it's also there I think the communication side is such an important part of the way we experience services these days, that you need to pay attention, right? So I think that's everything needs to be in sync and complete. Otherwise, your customers actually will feel alienated, I think, from your brand if channels communicate across different styles and ways and are not connected to the service you actually are looking for.
Absolutely. And there's, let's say, two elements in this, Don. You've got the communications, like you said, for the product, for the service, should be crystal clear, and the consumers have, and both in B2B and B2C, consumers have such a vast array of opportunities to choose from. They should not choose your service. They can choose something else as well.
Yeah.
So completely right. But as important as was clearly from our report, companies need to communicate about the company as well. So regardless of their service and product, you have, let's say, three major audiences that are not revenue generating, but are essential for your, let's say, license to operate.
Okay.
People, there's a war on talent going on, so you have to make sure that your company is attractive, interesting, in the middle
all
of
your
the
marketing
storm.
is indeed also to attract new people.
Secondary, investors. You have to make sure, if you want to do a new series, then you can't gear up in 3 months and have investors enthusiastic about your firm or product. You need
it's a long-term game, right?
Exactly. And the third is, let's say, the regulatory framework. All regulators want to see a firm to be embedded in the ecosystem, in the fabric of let's say, society and the economy. You can't think that a license or a regulatory situation is just a thing for the lawyers or the compliance office, because the let's say the Dutch Central Bank or AFM or BaFin in Germany, they want to see that you have you can't just say that you're a sustainable company and well-governed company, but actually treat your governance and regulatory framework as a tick in the box. So you need to also address society, think about other stakeholders than just your consumers, politicians, regulators, media, because otherwise you end up with an amazing product, but your license to operate is not sustainable because either the regulator is, because they don't know you, asking questions, your investors are too slow, or you don't have enough talent to actually execute your amazing business plan.
And so do you see that firms find it a struggle to actually combine all these different audiences?
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't combine them, but you should be aware of them. And a genuine marketing professional or comms professional is aware of that. They all four have a distinct, I would say, messaging. They need several channels. They need a different approach. Of course, all from a central narrative. I mean, you are what you are.
Exactly. They need to be in sync, right?
Exactly. But you should address them differently. I mean, people that you, in the war on talent, the people you want to attract as new employees, or the people you want to retain, for them you have a different mojo than, for instance, investors. So yes, from a central message DNA, you should develop the bespoke stories towards certain constituents.
Yeah. And so what do you see basically from the survey that you did, right, in the report? What are the sort of biggest challenges that you see popping up from all these respondents?
One of the key elements we found, one of the interesting things was, for instance, in media relations, where the comms or marketing professional sees that earned media, so coverage in the media, coverage in
being newsworthy, basically,
online,
right? Yeah,
exactly, is essential to build reputation. Yet they're a little bit reluctant to put a lot of budget in, because it's actually their own organization who is not willing, who is not embracing what you need to do to achieve that media recognition. That means that your CEO has to have an opinion. That means that your CEO has to make time to do interviews. That means that you do have to do a press release not written by compliance and legal, but actually written by the C-suite with all the passion about entrepreneurship they have. So you see that one of the important tools of the comms professional is it's not that they don't have budget or willing to spend money on active public relations, but it's their own organization who is like, oh yeah, but then I have to be on camera. I don't want that. Yeah, I mean,
do you see also a difference there in type of company? Because I know this is also kind of a sort of standard situation of what people would expect, for example, from technology firms, right? Most of the engineers think marketing is not really a field of a profession, right? So that's, in any case, they don't want to be involved because they're building something really cool. And why doesn't the world not want it, right? I mean,
exactly. Cool. I built the perfect mousetrap, so everybody wants to buy this. Yeah.
Exactly. So is that kind of situation that you're into, that people are too much focused on other things within the organization, like engineering? Or is it also something we actually have to learn more and actually adopt more as sort of common knowledge that how to do that?
Yeah, agree. And keep in mind that also one of the elements is they're technology focused engineering, but there's also something else. People see it as a risk, as a liability. Obviously, it's safer to do a blog on your own website because you can tinker every word. You can decide when you're going to publish it and if you're going to like it on LinkedIn or not. Where obviously an interview with the Financial Times or with Global Finance magazine, you don't know what the reporter is going to write. You don't know when it's going to be published. You don't know in what context it's presented. So there's a risk element. So let's not do it.
Yeah, no, I recognize it. And do you think actually, has that changed over time? Because I think, let's say, very often when we talk about media, I actually hear also quite a negative tone from time to time about, the tendency for articles that tend to be relatively negatively oriented because apparently it sells. Could that also have contributed to something like this?
Yes, absolutely. But the point is, that's also because many companies, big and small, tend to only engage with media when they think they need to engage with media. Where, like with any other audience, I mean, everybody understands you have to have a meaningful dialogue with your clients and or investors every day. It's an ongoing conversation. It should be the same with media. It should be the same with press. A journalist should know you and like you. And that doesn't happen if you only address him or her when you have a need. You see him as a vehicle to push your commercial message. Because then he thinks, put an ad in my paper. I'm going to write about you when there's something else happening in the industry and I have a reason to call you. So it's not a balanced relationship. As soon as you get that relationship from a let's say a one-night stand into a genuine relationship, you're in a good space. You're in a good place.
So you're a relationship broker after all, Richard.
In the end of the day, I'm just One of the other things, I mean, I like to emphasize, and that sort of clearly from our report, when asked, and we interviewed over 50 responsible, let's say the final responsible person in marketing in big technology firms and smaller startups all across the globe. 40% will spend 20% more on marketing this year. And another 20% will spend 10 to 20% more. So 60% of the marketing professionals will say this year and next year we'll spend more. That means that everyone who's watching this show should be aware of the fact that their competitor is spending more on marketing.
Yeah.
So
I think in general you see that there's also, I think post-COVID you'll see, I think that there's also a big run again on let's say the potential impact of marketing could be bigger, right? By actually putting it up now, especially if you have some product that requires physical engagement, for example. So I can definitely recognize that. And of course, every company that's scaling needs to beef up their budget any year anyway, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But also the point is that a lot of companies, indeed, due to COVID or other uncertainties in the market, decided to be a little bit, I would say, well, not reluctant, but let's say reserved in their spending and activities. Yeah. But now everybody understands if you want to make it in a lot of sectors within the financial services sector, there's only room for 2, maybe 3 players on a global scale. And either you are one of those or you're not. Yeah. And you can't just buy yourself that number 1 position. I mean, some people try, like Takeaway, but they're now clearly sort of pulled back by their investors. Yep. So a solid reputation and being very visible in your market and have an engaged dialogue with those 4 stakeholder groups that I just mentioned is elementary in your success.
Yeah. No, I can fully recognize that as well. So thanks. That's really interesting. I think we should actually include the link to the report probably in the comments under the stream, and of course it will be on the Holland FinTech website.
Yep.
Maybe just a bit of a crazy question, but you probably also have seen some really crazy stuff that people ask you to do to, big mistakes that people make while communicating that you have to come in to fix later on, right?
Absolutely.
Any nice anecdotes there on what has happened where you said, okay, please never do this?
Yeah. One of the, you already mentioned it, that you have several audiences and you should be aware of those and it should be integrated.
Yeah.
One of the classic mistakes is that people tend to think I can communicate things internally and it won't ends up at the media, or I can send stuff to the media and they will immediately respond. Yeah. Or I can send stuff to investors and none of these investors will send something to a reporter they know. The answer is no. Information is fluid these days. It's like water. Once it's out there, it's out there. So if you are planning something new, or you're planning to close down an office, or you are hiring someone, then you can't say, well, we'll tell our investors first and then we'll do the internal communication a week later, and then only when the guy starts, we'll do a press release. No, it's out there. So you have, and we see many examples of that done. Also from significant companies of relatively large size who don't understand, well, then they don't understand, or those various departments don't talk to each other. But internal is external, external is internal, and know your investors won't only look at the deck you present them, they'll look at how you are perceived in the media, in social media, and to be honest, specific by the larger VCs, they have analysts who actually go down to the level of the social media of your leadership to look what they think and what they do. So talking about people that ask them to fix things, it's most of the time because they have a disintegrated communication and they show a different picture or a different timing on different channels.
Okay. No, I think that's in any case good recommendation to make for people to take note of that.
Yep.
And so also I think if you talk about communication, I think especially if you look at younger generations, right? I think you see new channels popping up. Instagram has been pretty cool for a while, but now it's mostly TikTok. You see Discord, you see Reddit as channels.
Yep.
How do you look at these kind of channels, and how relevant are they for the financial industry in general?
Well, Reddit, for instance, is amazingly important, as is Telegram. And I think you definitely have to have a I would say an opinion slash integrate them in your mix. And there will be new platforms, Don, that you and I have not heard about that will pop up in 2 years' time, in a year time, in 5 years' time. So they all have their distinguished tone of voice, their distinguished sort of, let's say, way you need to work with them. They're all important. And as everything is out there these days, like you just mentioned, people will look at stuff that you and your company communicates. I think one of the most intriguing things, I think, is that a lot of people started with a platform, let's say Twitter. At some point in September 2019, they got bored and stopped. So when you actually, and they still have the Twitter logo on their website, but if you then go to their Twitter, the old logo is still up and they haven't posted something since September 3 years ago, which is silly. Either you take it down with, of course, the chance that someone else starts to dominate your story on that platform, or you continue to feed it. So it also means that you just already mentioned a few names. Indeed, you've got Reddit, Telegram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and going on. If you do a lot in Asia, then WeChat is very important as well. The chance is that your message gets, let's say, defragmented, both in quality, so the actual what you say, but also in quantity. If you need to manage so many different channels, then let's face it, you can't fully focus on all of them. So you'll need marketing automation, you need monitoring, you need some technology to manage your communication. And that's also something that clearly was stated in the report. A lot of that spending of new budget in marketing will be spent on technology to enhance the capabilities of the existing communication team, to monitor, to manage, to schedule, to actually, and that will appeal to the technology, the engineers, to generate data out of your marketing efforts so that can be linked to your strategy and business plan.
And so I think that that's something we've talked about already for quite a while, very often under the label like growth hacking, for example, right? That's also one of these terms that was very much used of actually just sort of a synonym for marketing automation and then stretching it further into your business operations. Is that still also being done like that? So do you actually see it like, because I truly believe as well that we've got the tools now to basically give every company its bespoke ERP that basically comes from any early marketing up until complete, relationship management, sales, operations, all in one go with various platforms, all combined. Do you also look at it like that? So do you see that actually marketing is there because marketing is so much on the front end of that and so strong, I think, already in sort of looking at the data side of things. I think it's really taking the lead there to a certain extent.
Absolutely. And one of the first lessons I learned a long time ago was it's better to own a market than a mill. As you are, when you're able to have a dialogue with a group of consumers who trust your brand, who trust your stuff, then it's easier to make more stuff and or make other stuff than to have a mill but actually no clients. So
exactly. But that's I think the shift that the whole financial industry actually is going through, right? From production facilities, they're being competed by big tech firms, for example, who actually are just customer oriented and don't care about who owns a product or makes it. And that's indeed a big difference in the approach of the customer. But indeed, if you make one thing, you can only sell that thing. And the question is whether that's actually sufficient to have a dialogue with your customers about what they need.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is that as this, let's say the economy is disintegrating, and where you used to have larger supply, let's say larger I'm looking columns. So a company would be producing stuff, developing stuff, was involved in wholesale, was involved in retail. So a company would actually own the whole silo in the business, and could control it, and had an opportunity to manage basically their sector, their product, and how it was envisioned. These days, if a retailer wants to sell insurance directly with whatever product they sell, they can have a white label insurance product off the shelf.
Yeah.
And if then that consumer of that retail firm likes that insurance offering, they say, well, why don't you insure my boat and my car and my bike as well? And then that retailer, who is maybe known for cleaning products, can say, well, no problem, we can add that to the mix as well. So, and the same applies to payments, loans. It used to be very, very difficult to issue a credit card. These days, I mean, any retailer who would like to do that could do so. And already you see in the US where Starbucks is moving into the direction to be basically offering almost a credit card solution on top of the loyalty program for the Starbucks points. So it's very intriguing. But the point is, the company that owns the market, that owns the brand consumers like and trust, will be the winner. Because everything else you can buy.
I think on the consumer end, I fully agree, right? But at the same time, there's plenty of business behind that brand, right? So there is of course still need for production facilities that, for example, in terms of financial services, we talk about licensed entities that actually have the ability to issue credits, to take in savings, to broker trades. Right, so those are maybe more the factories, but there will be business there. But
absolutely.
Indeed, in the communication with the conversation with the end users, you ideally have your hands free to really listen to your customers' needs, and then figure out how to make it or how to get it actually, rather than make it. Because once you make it, you're stuck with it, right? So that's I think always the struggle.
Absolutely.
Hey, well, I think the time flies, Richard.
Yeah,
but
we're almost done.
I want to make sure we talk about Money 2020 a bit before we head out, because with Cognito Media, you won the media relationships contract with the Money 2020, right?
We are the lead PR agency for Money 2020. Yes.
Exactly. So I think that's really cool, and I think everyone's now getting excited again. Of course, it's a big event in Amsterdam where a lot of people are being expected and are very much looking forward to, after 2 COVID years, meet each other again. Right? We had a smaller edition in last September when Money 2020 was live again, but now it seems like everything is opening up again and we're going full throttle. Yep. We're also going to be there with the stand and yeah. But I'm really curious about your take on this. What should we be looking out for?
Whoa, well, it will certainly be bigger than so it will be a full-fledged show, amazing content, and the team that's I mean, we just do the PR for Money 2020, but the team delivers an amazing show with huge amount of interesting content, so it will be very inspirational.
Cool. Yeah, I think we're all very much looking forward to it. I saw the lineup already with some great speakers, and I think also as financial industry, there's a lot to talk about with interest rates and inflation probably taking up a high note on the agenda, as well as with anti-money laundering and sanctions that are also still high on the list, and of course in general uncertainty in the markets given everything going on in Ukraine.
Absolutely. And everybody is keen to do business, so keep that in mind. It's shake hands, go the rounds, because the appetite for people to engage with others is amazing.
No, exactly. I think as well. I think the last time in September when we met, it felt like there's a really friendly environment. Everyone was open to talk, to meet, to a bit less sales oriented than before, I think, where people would come like, hi, I'm John, this is my pitch. They would be a bit more open to say like, hey, how are you doing? How are things at home? How have you been? Kind of conversations. And I hope we can keep that in a little bit, because it makes it slightly more social. And I think in the end, you're there to build relationships, right? I think
there you go. In the end, it will be more effective because it's about the people you know and the people you trust.
Yeah, I fully agree. Any last words, Richard? Because I think it's been a great conversation, but the time is running up.
No. Just the only thing I want to say to everybody is build your brand before someone else does in your industry.
That's some good advice. Thank you very much, Richard, for being here with us today, and thanks everyone for listening in. I hope you picked up some nice ideas from Richard on how to actually build your brand and communicate everything your company needs to do to all these different audiences that you might want to reach. In any case, for sure picked up a couple of things, so I'm very happy with that. Thanks again, Richard. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time at Flash Friday.